Welcome back to part 2 of The Guilty Feminist. So plug in and get ready for the fun.
Hello, Museum of Comedy. Are you ready for a bit more Guilty Feminist? Yeah. Did you have a nice interval? Yeah. Did you meet anybody in the interval? No. Oh, okay. Try and meet people, because we're the only ones in the bar here, so I always find after the show people stay on and they talk about whatever we've been talking about and make plans. You might meet somebody and just put your hand up if you're single. Great. Just look around, quickly look around. This is just like Bumble Live. Our first guest today is an internationally award-winning human rights advocate and the founder and CEO of the Global Human Rights Group, a social enterprise that was established in Geneva, Switzerland. Please welcome Claire Mahon. Claire, thank you very much. And please also welcome the Human Rights Officer at Global Human Rights Group, Julia Rowland. Now, I met the both of you at the Doughty Street International Women's Day event, and I was very impressed. Well, actually, I met you, Julia. I didn't meet Claire. I met you. And I was very impressed by a report that you had done that you told me about. And I thought, well, this is very Road to Gilead. We need to hear about this. And you said, I'll bring Claire, because you said Claire's an icon.
Yeah.
And so...
Claire's my mentor. I need her.
Delightfully, she's come.
So, Deborah's mine and I need her.
Yeah.
I am nowhere near Jess Fostekew's mentor. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and about the Global Human Rights Group?
I'm Julia. I am the Human Rights Officer at Global Human Rights Group. Officer sounds really cool, but it's not military. Right now I'm not working in that position because I'm here studying to become a barrister. And these are my classmates, some of them. We worked on this report together, which was commissioned by Plan International, which is a wonderful girls' rights organization. And it's based on our research working in the UN in Geneva, which is mostly the Human Rights Council. That's what's based in Geneva. There's a lot of human rights things going on, governments that come together to make resolutions, make law, and we studied how girls' rights have progressed over time since 2023. Last 5 years, yeah. And how international laws developed. Claire?
And so I've been working on human rights in Geneva for a long time and internationally on all sorts of different rights. And for the last few years, we've been doing some work with some really interesting organisations that do amazing work all around the world, including Plan International, on girls' rights and women's rights as well. And we wrote this big report which studies how has progress been made. And when we're talking about the UN, why does it matter? It's because what's happening here with making laws and policy, it trickles down into all of our countries. So how governments and lawmakers treat women and girls here in the UK actually kind of comes from, as an international community, how we decide to do these things. So we're looking at what's the progress that's been made in protecting girls, because we have made progress in women's rights and girls' rights. And what are the challenges? What are the threats? What's happening with this big backslide and the pushback against human rights, gender rights, etc.? And how is it impacting girls' rights in particular?
When do you think we had peak girls' rights?
Oh, that's a great question.
What's the best we've been?
I think we are in that and continue to be in that, because I'm an optimist.
Yes.
But
you said there's been a backslide, so I'm asking, when did we peak? Because I feel like a roller coaster, and we've been going like that. Because I feel we've been going like that for some generations, and then we had a bit of a stall, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, we're going again, and it felt really good, and then we got to almost the top of the roller coaster, and then it was just like, and now we're sliding back down. So when do you think was the peak of the peak?
So I'm still going to say right now, because yes, rights are under threat. There's a pushback. We are backsliding, or there's threats to backsliding in many areas, but we still continue to make progress. And that's why we need to continue to keep pushing to make progress. So when we say backslide, there's a backslide in terms of some rights, aspects of rights are under threat. You know, there's all this energy that needs to be going into defending, not backsliding on sexual and reproductive health rights, abortion.
I mean, there's been a
girls,
massive
et cetera.
backslide on that in America.
Yeah, so in different countries, locally, federal legislation, etc., in many countries around the world, on many rights, absolutely.
And because of USAID,
there's still progress.
Because of USAID as well, there's been so many cuts across, developing nations and things like that. So where's
point, January 2025.
January
That's right.
2025.
Yeah.
January 2025.
Yeah.
So that,
And here's why. Because February, Elon Musk came in and over a weekend shut
Slash.
down
Yeah.
30% of funding in the whole international development sector. And the fallout from that is that what's been shown now is that about 30% of organisations, particularly in women's rights spaces, don't exist anymore, or 30% of the jobs have been cut. And the prediction is that by the end of this year, 50% of global work on women's rights and girls' rights will just no longer exist. But over the course of that weekend, we immediately lost direct line funding for HIV prevention programs, for emergency contraception, for every single thing imaginable, education, counterterrorism, everything.
Also, USAID was the biggest provider of contraception around the world, and that's just stopped.
That's just gone, yeah. We had someone on recently telling us about MSI, telling us about the global gag order. Say you get funding from Switzerland for contraception or abortion, but you get funding from America for literacy for the same NGO, they will stop the literacy funding because you're taking contraception funding from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
the global gag order is a US government initiative that they're refusing to fund anybody that's doing work on sexual and reproductive healthcare rights, which is not just abstinence. The global gag order has been in place for a long, long time. Obama got rid of it. So we hadn't had it, and that's
I thought it was only under Republicans, the global gag order.
And so,
but they've made this one much worse.
Now they've brought it back,
and
it's much worse. Which, the flow and effect, the AIDS epidemic, etc. A lot of that is further exacerbated because of funding policies like this.
So if our real peak was January 2025, of we had lots of things in place and there were still lots of problems, but we're getting somewhere, and then that's been kind of gutted and pulled back. Go back to the thing that you were saying where you were still optimistic, because I feel I've bummed everyone out now by going, but it isn't, but it's terrible.
I was trying to be positive.
Why are you still optimistic if by looking at 50% cuts by the end of the year? Where does this optimism come from? And please share it with us.
Well, two things. One is because we have people in this room. We have people like you doing these things. We're talking, we're collaborating, we're working on things. As long as we are all still fighting, there's still hope. But also on a really practical level, even when we are facing all these problems, we're still making progress. So this was a big part of what our research showed, that there's two aspects. There's visibility and invisibility when it comes to girls' rights. And girls are more visible and their rights are better protected. Right. There's more visibility of rights. So, for example, when I first started working in Geneva on human rights stuff, people couldn't bring their children into the whole UN compound. So if you're a working mother, you can't just bring your child to work one day because children weren't given security passes. These days, it's not only that, sometimes I'll look after my friend's baby while she's giving a speech in the UN, I'll do that in the foyer, but girls themselves able to come in, they're taking the podiums, they're taking the platforms, and that's where we're seeing progress. Girls are more visible because they're being spoken about more, their rights are more visibly protected, but just in the negotiation rooms, in the meeting rooms, they are more visibly participating in decisions that impact them. So even though we're having to fight harder and there's more threats that this is getting worse, we keep making more progress. Laws keep coming into place. So an example that Plan International actually worked on, so it's not my work, but I think it's an amazing story to share. They were working with girls in Burkina Faso where they were seeing nearly 7,000 teen pregnancies in schools because of rape by teachers. Pregnancies by teachers, but school children, so let's call a spade a spade. It's rape. So identifying this problem, the girls themselves said, we don't like this, we want to do something about it. They took information about this, they took the stories to the UN, and the UN officials there and the experts said to the government, this is contrary to international human rights law. You need to do something about this. And so the pressure was then on activists could then use that decision to go home, fight for new laws. So new laws were introduced that made different accountability, criminalised the acts, threatened to imprison teachers, etc. And over a period of 10 years, they saw more than a 30% reduction in teen pregnancies for girls in schools. So that's real change, seeing something wrong, using the UN as a system to hold people accountable, and then that changes real lives for real girls. So that's just one story. We're still seeing that. That kind of thing is still working. So we're still improving lives.
Tell us about the report. Like, who commissioned the report? How did it start? How did you gather the information?
So the report is an updated version of a report that Plan did in 2018. So we were updating their findings from then, and they asked us to understand what's changed since 2018, what's progressed, what's gotten worse. So what we did was an enormous amount of research in UN databases.
Over 3,500 documents, resolutions and reports that Julia and others read.
Yeah, because human rights law is made up of many different types of documents. There are resolutions, those are negotiated between states. There's other documents that are created by experts who are independent. There's working groups, there's treaty bodies. There's so many different outputs. They're all soft law. They all support our big treaties that form international human rights law. And they get published all the time and negotiated. And so we studied.
Yeah, the point is to look at
what
how
happened.
are girls being referred to?
Yeah.
Is there more mentions of them?
Yeah.
Are they being better protected? Or is there a change? Is there they had these rights in this year and then the next year they were got rid of?
Yeah.
And what we saw was that there were greater threats, but not the diminution that maybe we're all saying, oh, it's getting worse. The pressure and the threats and the need to keep maintaining the status quo is getting worse, but the rights are still there and we're still making progress.
And one of the biggest differences between 2018 and now was that we had a big report about girls as human rights defenders, girls as activists, girls as agents of change, while before there was this big focus on girls as victims of gender-based violence, girls as victims of discrimination. And we saw that directly as that participation that Claire was talking about at the UN, girls coming from all over the world, youth leaders coming to speak and giving their opinion and sharing their stories. That was that real visible change. And that's why I think also the pushback is so strong. That's what makes me optimistic, is that there's a reason why the backlash is so strong. And that's because we've actually made progress. Yeah. Because if you start feeling that resistance, it means that you're getting somewhere because you're pulling some cords that...
One of the real stresses, the thing I am worried about that we saw doing this research, is that because there's this real sense of everything's getting worse, we need to be careful and we need to just ask for the minimum possible and not push too hard, is in fact, it's that age-old, we're capitulating to authoritarianism. We are preempting, and so we're making ourselves smaller. We're asking for less. We're trying to be more conscious of the sensitivities. We're trying to just maintain what we already have. And personally, I think we should be pushing for more and more. And the only way that we fight back from this kind of threat to be smaller and smaller and smaller is to keep being bigger and bigger, more positive, more progress, being more aspirational about what we need to ask for.
It feels almost similar to like the sort of fight for sort of continued progress towards decarbonisation and climate justice, in the sense that like it's very easy to frame it as a done deal, totally nihilistic, pointless, nothing we can do is going to make any difference now. And actually, from a comedy point of view, that's all you ever see on that topic, is people going like, there'll be a picture of a burning river somewhere full of turds and they'll go, I'm really glad I bothered recycling my yoghurt pot. That did the rounds recently. And to be fair, that is quite funny. But it's frustrating because it's so negative and it's so hopeless. And actually, that's exactly what the people who want an end to rights for girls, rights for women, want the diminution of these things, and or just want fossil fuel proliferation in the other example, want us to feel, is actually that it's hopeless. And actually, one of the greatest acts of resistance can be a maintenance of hope, even in the face of what feels hopeless, because there are some things you can't afford to give up on.
They want
even
to wear
if
us down.
in that, you have to take every single loss as a battle and not the war forever. because you just can't stop.
And
fighting
we're
those
experiencing
things.
this kind of collective societal trauma because of all of the attack against everything that we believe in. And so it's really normal that we feel overwhelmed and we feel frozen, right? We're in that kind of froze, fear, fawn response. And we need to fight more because that's the goal. It is very widespread, systematized, funded, organized attack on all these things. But they don't actually care about girls' reproductive rights. They don't actually care about trans women, etc. They care about undermining our hope and our ability to collectively respond to things because then that is how you destroy democracy.
And action. I read a brilliant thing recently that said you get hope without action, but you don't get action without hope. So if you keep on with hope.
That's absolutely true. And it's the same as people going, some people in my life have gone, oh, reform are just going to get in. And then people see how bad it is. And I'm like, they will with that attitude.
Yeah.
Like we can't, you cannot assume, like actually look at how small that party is really and go, we can take them on. We've got to get together and we've got to organise and we've got to participate. It's
sounds a little bit like the people who said we don't need to vote about Brexit, and look how well that turned out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We've got to participate. We've got to argue. We've got to ask questions. We've got to build bridges and find out what people are concerned about and find ways to humanize people that they have demonized. And because I think the trouble is now they own the algorithm. The bad guys own the algorithm and people spend so much time online. So I keep thinking, I think we've got to get into rooms with people and I think we've got to organise community events. Like in this country, I think boys are being...
all of the algorithm. I feel like they don't own mine.
No, but they own they let you stay in your bubble.
As in mine thinks I'm even like far, far nicer than I am.
But I think they allow us bubbles. They allow us bubbles because that reassures us that we're not seeing any of the bad stuff. So we think, oh, it looks like we're going to win the election. They actually, they do own our algorithm, but they determine who sees what. And they give us, the sort of something to suck on, like a pacifier.
Julia's much better at this than I am in terms of reminding me
Julia?
To talk to the people who are not yet
But you do that, though, because so what we saw at the UN when resolutions are being written, they're being negotiated by diplomats. And there's the really crazy, scary diplomats, like the Russian diplomats, who you sit next to and you go, oh my God, she looks like she's going to kill me. And then you look her up and she's like a chess champion. You're like, of course she's a chess champion. And she's really scary. And then you've got like the progressive diplomats like Iceland, and they're really cool and they're really pushing for the right words and ensuring that, human rights law is respected. And then you've got all the ones who are in the middle who are just, some of them, it looks like they don't know why they're there, but others, they don't have a gender policy, for example. Right. Yeah. So they don't have an agenda they need to push. So when we were sitting in those negotiations, and you have, diplomats who are going, yeah, I guess that wording from that treaty from the 70s, I guess that's good. But laws evolved since then. So they don't understand that, and they are ready to capitulate on that because maybe they have other priorities. So what Claire did last year was she did some capacity building for diplomats, where she trained them on gender language in international human rights law to get them to understand what are the points that they really should be pushing on, and what are the things that you can't let go of. Children have evolving capacities. That's fine, right? In the law, we want to understand that kids at different points in life, you have to take care of them in different ways, and they're capable of different things. But that doesn't mean that then adults are, just going to be able to make all the decisions about them, or that they have no agency. So talking about that in terms of gender, in terms of girls.
And sometimes it sounds like just ridiculous debating over minutiae and language and things like that. So we do things like really insist on talking about girls in all their diversity, because we don't want the use of the term girls to be reinforcing the gender binary, right? So how do you protect the fact that we have spectrums of gender, yet we still need to talk about girls and the actual things that impact them that are different to the ways that others are impacted? So how do you make sure that you're getting the language right on those things? And it does matter because it has an impact on our everyday lives, because it flows through to the laws. It's not just nitpicking over language, but it also, from our perspective in terms of just everyday people and activists, it's also okay to make mistakes or to not get it perfect. And I think sometimes we struggle to coalesce together and take action because we're too afraid of getting it wrong or not having exactly the right language or not using all the right pronouns. And I think sometimes we just need to be nicer to each other use empathy about the fact that we don't all have to know international human rights law. We don't all have to be good activists out on the streets with placards. We can each do our own thing in our own way. And for some people, that's actually just maybe opening their ears a little and having others remind them that their life is more political than they probably think, rather than sitting back and saying, oh, no, I'm not very political. So we need to be nice in the way we approach these things in order to help bring people in.
And it's okay ethically if the way that you described that Russian diplomat means I fancy her a bit now.
Oh my God, same though.
Hypothetically,
I sat in
because
front
we're
of her
talking
once.
hypothetically
Yeah.
about a
Hypothetically.
general stereotype of people.
Yeah. I mean, she was
sounds-
right there, and I was like, oh my God.
She sounds a bit like a Bond villain.
Yeah. But they're really good at their jobs, and you sit there and you think, this is why we're lacking, because they've been trained and we haven't. And they know how to negotiate language. They know human rights law really well. So they know what's not human rights law. If you put, for example, sexual reproductive health and rights, because that means something in the law, that gives states certain guidelines to follow. If you just put, like health rights, that doesn't mean anything. And they know that.
Yeah.
But the other diplomats who are less well-versed and should be trained, they don't. So they go along with it. So it's all about training.
So for us here in this room, what can we do? Because I think what you said before, if I understood it, is what happens here in the UK impacts the rest of the world, because other countries look at us and go, well, if the UK are taking rights from girls and women, we can too. So what we're seeing in America is there's a massive knock-on because MAGA has said no more DEI. A lot of the corporations that are based there have now gone, oh, great, we don't have to do International Women's Day anywhere now. That's going to be a lot cheaper. And so although they're appeasing Trump, what they're also doing is going, oh, thank God diversity's over. So, it's true.
It's a little less complicated now.
Corporations who were like, oh, we've got to have a pride float, I suppose. Otherwise we look bad. Are now going, well, DEI's over. We don't need to have a pride float anymore. And,
So that's exactly the first thing I think that we can all do is not capitulate. Don't preemptively comply, and make sure that you tell every organisation you're in, the politicians that are your politicians, etc. But it's all of us in everyday life, right? And we've seen here in the UK women's rights organisations, girls' organisations that have preemptively complied with something that we hope will never actually be law. So let's not kind of preemptively and as individuals.
Are you talking about excluding trans girls?
Yeah.
Is that
That was
preemptive?
also
I thought
my
they were
guess what you
pressured to
meant.
do that.
But I mean,
They do not have to.
No.
There's no legal requirement to ban trans women. There's no legal requirement that trans women can't use bathrooms. That is not the law.
the England Human Rights Commission, the EHRC, they've got a bunch of cases against them because they've completely overstepped in their guidance from what the Supreme Court ruling said. That's literally just anticipatory obedience. They decided the Supreme
So
Court.
the Girl Guides,
Organisations.
I thought
Women's
they were
Institute.
pressured to do it, and they said they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I recently publicly resigned from the board of the International Umbrella Organisation for Women's Rights, which was founded by the WIs, by the Women's Institutes in the UK and all around the world. Because the founding member, one of the biggest member organisations and federations of organisations, publicly came out saying that we have to have a policy. We don't want to, but we've been forced to have a policy of excluding trans women. As a lawyer, that is legally incorrect that they had to.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I heard that and I thought they did, and I felt sorry for them because I was like,
No.
God, the poor WI, and they're saying, look, we've had trans women for years, it's never been... I thought
I
they
do
had
have
to.
some empathy for the board because it's a tough decision, because what now I wasn't involved in this because I wasn't on their board, I was on the umbrella body board, but what presumably happens in those situations is that there's the threat of people will sue the organisation if they don't do this. And because of the Supreme Court case, the likelihood is that there's one case that says, well, we need to protect women's rights, and that means protecting bathrooms as safe spaces for cis women. That's how they've interpreted it. And we are yet to see the cases that will challenge that. They exist. The Good Law Project and others, they're working on these cases. And organisations like the WI, like the Girl Guides, if their members had wanted to, or if their members had been consulted, could have said, actually, we do want to challenge this, come and sue us. But the board said, well, we don't want the organisation to be threatened or to all our resources disappeared. It's going to kill us. And I think that when I say, like, what we can all do is don't preemptively comply, what we've seen is a lot of WI branches actually leave the organisation because of this.
Wow.
So I think the choice we have is either we slowly die by capitulating, or we die fighting. And I'd much rather die fighting.
Yeah. Or we win.
Yeah, or we win.
Or we win.
Yeah.
Because they can't sue us all.
Exactly.
Well, that has given me such a boost of understanding and confidence to say, okay, because Parkrun are being sued by the ADF. I mean, the ADF, does everyone know what the ADF is? Alliance Defending Freedom. They're the Christian nationalist legal body that were very instrumental in overturning Roe versus Wade. And
it was their client.
They're very anti-LGBTQ+, and they're very anti-reproductive rights. And what are they doing here? They're American. Why are they here? Like, they are nothing to do with us. And I mean, I don't want them to be in America either, but they've stealthily come over.
They're in Geneva also.
And I'm like, fuck off. We don't want you here.
Exactly.
Get the fuck off our park run.
Yes. Park run is just a park run.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's just some people turning up to a park and running. You're going to stop some people running in a park. What is going to happen in a park?
Yeah.
Some people have decided to run, and Park Run have gone, we're not telling trans women they can't run with us if it's a women's morning run. That's ridiculous. And they've just said, well, no, we're not doing it. And the ADF are going, right, we're going to come in and we're going to make an example of Parkrun. Now, the ADF have, I think, $100 million budget a year.
So this is the problem. And this is why it would
They've
be
got money to
wonderful
burn.
if the solution was that we fight and we win. But the reality is they're super well funded. They're super well
Strategic,
organised. So we
patient.
need to get better funded, better organised, so that we are stronger and better at fighting back.
Well,
With
we just
transphobia-
branch off and start our own one called Park Fast Walk. And anyone can do that. And it'll be in all the same parks at 9 a.m. on Saturdays.
But do you know what I think is going to start happening? Is everyone's going to start saying, we can't gender anything now because then we exclude. So there will be no women's spaces, because as soon as you call it a women's space, you have to ban trans women, and we don't want to do that. So we're just going to say now it's a run.
It doesn't make any fucking sense because Park Run was never a women's space anyway.
I think it must be
a runner's space.
It must be a women's. I looked it up because I thought that too. I thought, well, what are you talking about? But I think there are some park runs that are for women, and those ones, and they're going after them. I'm like, why do the ADF care?
Well, and this comes back to transphobia, all of these things, they're imported. And they're imported as part of a deliberate, strategic battle on a global level that's playing out in every country.
The ADF is
They're
doing it
Sharon
to divide
Sterling's
us.
kicking off about it. But the other problem with it is it's not a race. You only log your time against yourself. It's not a competition.
But it's just like, oh, it's called women. We're going to go after them. We're going to make an example of them. We're going to, exactly for this reason, to scare everyone else off and make everyone else preemptively obedient. They don't care about Parkrun. They don't care about trans people. They care about eroding the rights of all LGBTQ plus people and all women. And what I really need to happen, and I think this is one big thing we could do.
Don't say Parkrun because they are hard. They are hard.
No, not
I did one in
Tough
Bristol
Mudder.
and I got overtaken by 3 people walking.
No, not that. How many people here know some rich white gay men? Just give us a cheer. Yeah, okay. Who's got some gay men in their like influential or wealthy white gay men? Because I think a lot of gay men. Are there any white gay men in? Just give us a cheer. Wes Streeting.
Yeah.
I don't know him, and I hope he's not in. But is Wes Streeting in? Be great if it. Oh yeah, he is a good example of which rich white man. Yes. So if you know any influential white men who are gay, I think a lot of gay men think we're sorted now, and we're part of the establishment. We have all the rights we want. Marriage was the last thing. We've got that now. We're fine. But they are not, the ADF aren't really coming. They are very much coming for trans people now, but that to them is just the tip of the iceberg. That's the acceptable place to pick away that will divide the feminist, will divide the LGBTQ community, but it's a test case for how you can erode rights.
They're not coming for them here yet.
Not yet.
But they are in other places of the world.
Yes,
so
but
things
it's the beginning. It's the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you hear Farage recently say equal marriage was always a mistake? So he didn't call it equal marriage. He said gay marriage was, I always said it was a mistake. And he's just also backed a homophobic street preacher and said, I'm 100% with you on a video. And he's saying
he's also anti-abortion, right? Isn't that what your journalist said on your episode? Didn't you have an episode with some journalists who wrote about the ADF and reform?
Yes.
And he also said he's now anti-abortion.
Well,
right?
he's not saying that outright.
No.
He's saying we have a too high a week limit. But what the New York Times journalist had revealed is that he was having secret meetings with the ADF.
Yes.
And Jane Bradley, who was on the show, said she rang him and he answered the phone to get, one of these right to replies. And he happened to answer the phone and she said he really went off and like, this is bollocks, whatever he said, he was really went off. And she said he was overly defensive about these ADF meetings that we knew he had had. He was like, I meet with a lot of people. But I think he's made a deal with them about gay rights and about abortion rights, that it won't, he knows he can't overnight just go, but it will be chipped away if he becomes Prime Minister.
It gets chipped away and we think, that can't kind of happen here, etc. But the laws in places like in Africa and Uganda and Sierra Leone, death penalty for gay people, for gay men who's being targeted, those weren't always in existence. These are new things or re-emergence of things that were got rid of at the end of colonialism. The transphobia is what's imported. It's not homosexuality that's been imported into Africa. It's the transphobia. And that's happening in many countries around the world, in Eastern Europe, etc. And it's a new thing to have more of these laws. It's definitely not a new thing to persecute LGBTI people. But if we think it can't happen here, then I think we're fooling ourselves.
But that's why I think we need to find the wealthiest, most influential gay men who think they're safe and say, look, you're not safe. You need to campaign against Nigel Farage.
Just
you
before
need to use
you
your
know
influence,
it,
your
you're
money.
not going to be allowed at Park Run.
I have another, maybe a little bit controversial suggestion.
To be honest, if you have to ban me from anything, ADF, ban me from Park Run. Should we give them that? I volunteer as tribute. I volunteer as tribute to be banned from Park Run. Don't ban the willing trans people they want to go on Park Run. I want to stay in bed. So I think we need to be finding people in our society, showing them the writings on the wall, like compiling, this is what I want to do, compile the evidence. Farage is talking about the NHS, he wants an American assurance model. He's saying he admires American gun laws. Just get the video evidence, get the quotes, put it together and say, is this the world you want to live in? They want to do ICE. We're seeing what ICE is doing in America. Like, it is so frightening what's coming out of America now. Thousands of people shoved in tiny places, hardly any food. I saw one the other day, a representative went in 2 water fountains for 1,000 people. And you're like, this is concentration camps. It's so disgusting. And sometimes I lie awake at night thinking, they're in there now, and there are children in there. And you just go, this is in the United States of America. They're saying they're going to bring this here. And like, you just, so I think the more influential people we can get. Is there anything else that we can do that you have insight from this report or your other work?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. One that I would say is surround yourself with girls. And I don't mean this in a creepy Jeffrey Epstein-esque kind of way. I think what we really learned from this report is that girls are amazing leaders. They have opinions and thoughts and ideas around their own lives and what they want protected and what they're happy with and what they're not happy with. So the more and more that we in all of our lives can give the stage to girls, have reverse mentors, bring our reverse mentors along with us on stage because I need my mentor as well, right? Like have young people in our lives who can help us to, both be inspired, learn new things, and to make sure that we are giving them the platform to be agents of their own change.
So is Julia your youth mentor?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's so important now because
one of a number, yeah.
Yeah, because young people understand things that are happening in technology and the way that the world is changing, that there's no hope of you understanding, to be honest. There's no hope. There is no hope.
And even when it's things that we think we know, right? When I knew I was coming on today, I asked my niece who's 15. She'd just done her first big public speaking thing. So I asked her, oh my God, I've got this thing, I'm really nervous about it. Do you have any tips for you? What did you learn that you can teach me? And she told me things that I'd forgotten about years ago and things that I just wouldn't have thought of. We can always learn from young people.
What was the tip that she gave you for tonight?
Do you know, I did not prep her with this, but she said she had her mentor in the room and she looked over at her mentor and her mentor kept smiling at her and that helped her to feel more confident. And I thought, well, that's fine because I have my mentor on stage with me, so I know I'll be okay.
Oh, that's nice. Shall we take some questions from the audience?
Making all these laws and stuff I think is fabulous, but who are we going to ring? Because we've got the manosphere going on, as Laura Bates talks about. Christiane Amanpour talked about the algorithms. In New Zealand, where I come from, they've got a man-up movement where they're encouraging men to be the head of the household, women pregnant and in the kitchen. You can't make laws against that. And I mean, who will you ring? The police are not going to come. You know what I mean?
So, Kira, thank you. And I know the Man Up movement very well. We often sit at events like this. Like, how many times have you been told to call your MP? Right? Like, if I had $1 for every time I've heard or told people, call your MP, tell them. I have another idea. In addition to calling your MP, who are we going to call? Ourselves, because we need to get into those rooms to change the parties. So if we're frustrated with Labor's not doing enough or its policies are bad, you can actually change those policies because you can write those policies.
What?
Because the policy, a little lesser known fact, the policies of all of our major political parties and the minor ones are written by members. So members actually put forward remits for, we want a law on this, or when you're in government, we want you to do this. And you can be a member, you can write these remits, you can go to the conferences, and you can do. So I joined a political party and I wrote remits like, we want to increase the funding to the New Zealand Human Rights Commission when I was in New Zealand. The membership passes it. It then goes into the party manifesto where it says, for example, Labor, when in government, will and must, and every MP is bound, you actually sign a commitment to comply with the party manifesto. And that comes from every single one of you as members. Oh. So if you don't like what Labor's doing, get in there and change it. Like, call your MP, sure, but isn't it better to actually bind your MP to doing what you want them to do?
So, but then we have to join the Labour Party, which at the moment a lot of people don't want to do. For
totally understandable.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
But does that mean if Reform get in, I could actually, I'd have to really, oh my God. But if they got in, I'd have to suck it up. But do you know what? If they get in, maybe we do a campaign where we say, fine, we all fucking join Reform. And we go, at Reform, what we want is, we're big Reform members, us. And we want equality and fairness. We really want DEI back. Because if we all... that's a good idea.
Exactly. Because you don't have to kind of...
If we all joined and we went, the main thing your members want is DEI, they'd be like, oh, fuck, now we've got to give DEI.
Exactly. That's it. You don't have to be a diehard Reform supporter for your whole life.
I don't know about this. This might be wrong. I don't think we should all join Reform. I might have overspent. I'm just spitballing here. But... should I join the Labour Party? Because I've joined the Greens. Same. Should I join the Labour Party so that I can change current policy on Palantir?
Join them all.
It can't hurt.
Yeah.
Join them all.
Can we join them all? And
you can join as many as you want, right?
And then I could just write
party member slut.
So I could. Are you?
Yeah. Join them all. I want to see the newsletters. Same reason I follow a load of Nazis on Instagram. I want to know what they're. I want to see what they're. I want to witness their content.
But what if I put forward something and everyone just goes, no?
Yeah, so if the whole membership of the party says, no, we don't want that, that's why we need more members who want the same things we want.
So we can put forward something, but then we've got to be persuasive. We've got to get people on side.
I would like if it's compliant with international human rights law and, not discriminatory.
But say, like, I want Labour to get Palantir out of our NHS, out of our country. I don't want Palantir anywhere near our country. It's very, very dangerous. And now they've just... there was a debate, and you saw all of these Labour politicians saying, we don't want them here, this isn't right, blah, 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 blah. And then others were going, we don't agree with them either, but they're really efficient. But the last thing you want is efficient fascists. I would rather have incompetent fascists, because then at least they'll be bad at doing it. But then this week, they announced that they're giving Palantir all the NHS data. They're giving it everything. And I'm just like, so if I go in and I write policy and I get loads of people on my side, we're all going, we don't want Palantir or similar here. Is Keir Starmer going to do that, or is he just going to do his own thing?
He is, look, I don't know if he will. Don't have his direct number, can't check for sure. But he is a representative of the party at the end of the day. And so if the party says this is our policy...
So we could at least have more ability to hold his feet to the fire. To be honest, I'm not very bothered about convincing him, because I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be around. I don't think he's... But whoever's next...
And I think the point is that there are so many different ways that we can all influence. And I think often we sit back and we feel helpless. And that's when we kind of go, well, there's not much point because, well, it's all going to happen anyway. And I think we each as individuals hold more power than we realise. And collectively, we can be a force, an unstoppable force. And so that's where I think we need lots of different ideas and ways of collaborating and collectively getting together. And, I was saying this whole thing is a big systemic attack. It's strategic. So we need to be strategic.
Okay, this is interesting. Any other questions? There's one there.
Thank you, Claire. Honestly, I really appreciate you taking a principled stance on that, and so people are behind you. And just, personal thank you for resigning in that position. I wonder if you could, because people believe the Supreme Court the Supreme Court ruling is sort of absolute. I wonder if you could describe how there is a way through the UN or or the Hague or whatever that can be overturned and make people see that there is a way out of this. And second, I think it's really important, since we're here to talk about Road to Gilead, Reform want to scrap the Equality Act. They want to come out of the European Convention of Human Rights. I wonder if, from your perspective, you could explain what that actually means so people can understand how truly terrible that is.
Yes, let's give that a go. So the first question was about how can we... fight the Supreme Court judgment. So first of all, we can support organisations like the Good Law Project and others who are actively bringing cases to overturn that case. It's one case. It's been interpreted by the media and by the groups that were behind it all. It's been kind of sold to everybody as this was a win, and it's about how you tell the narrative. And the actual nuance of the case has deliberately not been out there, and people have not been able to listen or willing to hear the nuance of what it actually does and doesn't say. And the risk then is that it gets used and actually accepted and broadened, and there's a risk there that we do all believe, okay, we must have these policies. So we keep supporting cases that challenge it and that bring it down. Absolutely, there are actions that can be taken globally at the UN, the European Court of Human Rights, etc., to claim and name it for what it is, which is discriminatory and in violation of international human rights law. And those things will eventually, I truly believe, change the situation here in the UK to bring us back to a state where the rule of law applies again, and where we read and understand discrimination law as protecting all women in all their diversity. That it's not about not protecting cis women or putting cis women in danger, etc. Human rights is not pie. Giving rights to one person does not mean we don't have any left for the rest of them. So we need to really remember that we can actually have all of that. But some of it too is about remembering it takes a little bit of time for some of these things, right? They didn't get this win, if you can call it that, overnight. It took years of strategy and test cases and money. And so it's going to take a bit of time to undo some of that damage. But yeah, there are things already happening, so keep supporting what's already happening and keep maybe raising awareness. There are lots of commentators out there that have been clear about what it does mean, because it does have problems. There are things that it restricts for trans women, and the biggest thing it restricts is safety. So that aspect of, be allies. If you're out in public with trans friends, or tell trans friends, when we go out in public, I'll go with you to the bathroom, things like that.
But I've got friends who are, like a friend who's has got a same-sex partner, and she said, because my partner's quite butch, she gets challenged in loos now, and she says, could you just come with me? She said, but it's like, she feels like she's a child being taken to the loo, because she's like, if you talk to me, then they won't challenge me because we're together and stuff like that.
I'm not saying we should have to do this, because that's ridiculous.
It's just terrible.
Right?
Like, it's just, that's just shocking. And I've got, I've said it another week here, but I've got trans friends now who are dehydrating themselves so that they don't go to the loo. They're walking around dehydrated because they don't want to go to the loo when they're out, so they don't drink. This is not right in a civilized society.
And that's where, if you have the privilege of it not being something where you are personally feeling unsafe going to the bathroom or infantilized in those situations, etc., if you see somebody saying you shouldn't be in here, call them out on it. It's not true.
Oh, I totally would.
So, yeah,
I totally would. We've got to finish soon, but could you answer the second part of the question?
I think the second part of the question was, how does it impact our local laws? I think that was the question. So it becomes absorbed into our laws. So basically, when in terms of European context, I can't see you, I'm just kind of looking, but the European Convention on Human Rights, we have to abide by that when we write our own laws. So when we write laws about, for example, how you treat somebody in prison, it has to abide by the European Convention on Human Rights and the different rights that are enshrined in that. We see that all the time. Right now, what I'm studying right now, we see that all the time coming up. It's like, is this compatible with the right to privacy? Those are considerations that are constant in our local laws, and even though we don't see it, one of the most interesting things I think about regional human rights systems, like the European Court of Human Rights, is like, it is the ultimate court that you go to if you don't get justice in your own country. We have that in the UN as well. You can go to tribunals who can rule on your problem if your country hasn't given you justice. So I think that's one of the most interesting ways in which international human rights law is directly applicable in our lives. Obviously, it's quite extreme cases, right? Like if you had to exhaust every single type of remedy you could possibly get here to go all the way up, but people do, and it creates jurisprudence, it creates precedent, it creates frameworks for understanding certain issues. For example, Italy had a case internationally that was about whether rape has to include force or not, and it has to it's pushing. It hasn't worked, but it's putting consent into the definition of rape, which we've seen in France changed recently. So those are little things that we don't see, but they're all there.
And it may sound a bit technical and think, well, what does this mean for me? What it means is, don't give up on the fact that there is things happening, there are cases happening, and that these protections exist. And human rights, it's not something I believe in, because it's not a belief system. It's not a warm and fuzzy. It's not we all sit around singing Kumbaya. It's a legal system.
Yeah.
And so what it means is our governments are legally bound to do it, and we all as individuals and as a community get to hold them accountable for doing that.
When the ADF says it's not, that's bullshit. That's not true.
We've got to finish up, but I did promise this person here, so we'll do a really quick answer for this.
Thank you. It's great to hear about, talking about girls in the present, but I want to talk about, and I want to ask you, what about the girls who are not allowed to be born? Around the time I was born, which is 5 decades ago, 200 million girls went missing in India and China alone. Now, they didn't go missing. They were murdered before even they were born. And I have been reading statistics that even as long as last year, between 12 million to 64 million girls in India are not allowed to be born. So how do we change that? And who's going to change that?
This is one of the reasons why we still think it's important to talk about girls' rights and the need to protect girls' rights, even when we are wanting to progress talking about people in all of their diversity. The challenge for girls is still particularly acute. And I was rereading our report today and saw one of our first lines is that the violence for girls begins at birth. And I thought to myself, no, it doesn't. It begins before that.
Why do we write that?
So, yeah, it begins before that. I don't have a quick solution for you because that gender selection, it is already outlawed. It's outlawed in international law. It's outlawed in national law. How do we fight that? How do we protect that? Is by continuing to promote how amazing girls are, how there is no limit to what they can do, how wonderful it is to have a daughter, how we can fight like a girl, we can, do everything like a girl.
How we're of equal value.
I think it's changing cultural norms
Yeah.
is how we do that. I don't often think that the law is the solution. I think changing minds and attitudes is the solution.
I think that was a brilliant answer. I was wondering, would you, both of you, would you do a little afternoon workshop where you teach us how to be these people that write the policy?
Would love to. Yep.
Would you?
That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Great. Excellent. So that we can learn how to do it. And then we might have to just go, okay, we're just going to have to suck it up and join some parties we don't necessarily want to join. Like, what? Could we do that? Could
Do
we
it for the
underground
resistance.
infiltrate? Well, that's what I'm thinking. Could we go undercover and just go, yeah, okay, well, if you're going to be a main party, we're going to need to have our say on policy because we're citizens here. Maybe we could try it. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying do that. I think I'm going to get a lot of backlash.
Or perhaps have the Guilty Feminist branch of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Can you do that? You can't do
Make
that,
a
can
new
you?
branch?
Can you?
No, I don't know the UK Labour Party, so I don't know. But
Okay. Well, we'll talk
depends
about-
on their constitution.
Okay. Well, you
We
have
can
to
talk.
Yeah. Well, you research that before we do our workshop, and then we'll do our workshop because I think that's the kind of thing we need to do. I just want to do stuff now. I don't want to just sit and talk about it and then go, oh, great, we've talked about it, and now I've posted it on Instagram. I'm done with it. I need to shift the fucking dial now. I'm absolutely shift the dial. We need actual results now to change. This our country is putty at the moment, and we need to be shaping it in a way towards kindness, fairness, compassion, and hope. Thank you. GuiltyFeminist.com. Sign up for the mailing list. Then you'll just find out everything we're doing, Road to Gilead or otherwise, and you can come along to anything you want to, but make it your club. And as always, if money is an object, just email me, guiltyfeminist@gmail.com, and say, I'd love to come to this show, but I can't afford it, and we will figure it out. Anything else to plug you want us to read, look at, know about?
I wish I had a Nigel Farage cameo side hustle to promote, but I pay my bills to do the work like this these days through speaking. So if anybody needs a speaker to speak about these things, I don't always talk about fascism, but I can. But yeah, talking about how human rights is the way that we can navigate through uncertainty, working for the future.
So if you have any speaking opportunities at your company, and Julia?
I was going to say you can read our report. It's called Strengthening Girls' Rights as Human Rights. Not the best title, but it's Strengthening Girls' Rights as Human Rights. It's on Plan International's website. There's a little picture of us somewhere in it.
That would be.
So if you can find us.
Do you have an audiobook of it? Because
No.
we've established.
Could record it,
Could somebody
read it.
record somebody? Okay, we need to get someone famous to record it.
Yeah.
Gillian Anderson or someone, and everyone listens to her voice.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what you need to do with reports that sound a bit like, oh, I'm probably going to drift off.
But there's really nice pictures and graphics, so I think it's actually a better read than it is a better a listen.
All right, all right. Jess, anything to plug? You got your tour?
I got my. I'm finishing my tour. I'm at Leicester Square Theatre in London tomorrow. If you're here but not listening,
Oh,
it will be
tomorrow?
too late. Yeah, I'm filming it. There's a few seats left. If anyone fancies that tomorrow night.
You should go. It's such a good show. It's so funny. It's really funny. It's really heartwarming. It's really feminist. If you are not doing anything else tomorrow night, now you are.
Yeah.
Support a feminist comedian.
That's it. I think to plug for now. There's a few days left, but other places. But that's it.
Okay, look on Jessica Fostekews' website if you're anywhere that isn't London. I just would like to say a huge, huge round of applause for Julia Rowland. Claire Mahon. Jessica Fostekew. And everyone
at the Museum of Comedy, who are so wonderful to us. Your good selves for coming. And if you want to support the podcast, rate, review, subscribe, tell someone, send an episode that you particularly liked on a WhatsApp to someone and say, you should listen to this. Send this episode, say, I was there live, really enjoyed it. If you want to support the podcast or me, you could buy my book, which is called 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have About Polarization and Why This Has All Happened. And it's now out in paperback, so you can afford it. Okay, we loved this audience. If you could all come and sit in exactly the same seats, I'd be very happy with that next Friday night. Meantime, we have been the Guilty Feminists. I've been Deborah Frances-White. Good night. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Jessica Fostekew, and our very special guests, Claire, Mahon, and Julia Rowland. The recording engineer was Grundy Lazimbra. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge. The producer was Tom Salinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Gina Dicio, Zainab Mohammed, Ned Sedgwick, and everyone at the Museum of Comedy, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.
Content there. I witnessed their content. The downside is you will get presumably a Guilty Feminist listener, minimum one a week, going, "Excuse me, why are you following?" And you have to go, "Shh."
Yeah. Don't point it out. I'm spying.
That's me.
I'm Marta Hari.
I'm undercover.